Storms don't always leave when the rain stops. Some stay quiet, inside you. After a night like last night, when the wind howls and the world feels like it's coming apart, the silence that follows can be even louder. It's a heavy kind of quiet, the kind that settles in your bones and makes you wonder what broke while you weren't looking. You see the damage outside, the mud, the broken fences, and you get to work fixing it. But the damage inside, that's harder to see, harder to mend. I watched him from the porch, my James, already out there, hammering posts back into the ground like he could fix everything with just his 2 hands. But he never looked back, and in that distance, I felt a different kind of storm brewing. One without thunder, without rain, just a cold, creeping fog between us. The silence followed us inside, clinging to the air like the damp morning mist. It sat between us at the breakfast table, a third person we both refused to acknowledge. "You sleep any?" he asked, his voice rough from the early hour. I managed a little. Even though the truth was, I'd spent most of the night listening to the storm, and the even more unsettling quiet of my own thoughts. He just nodded, his attention fixed on the coffee cup in his hands. The space between us felt miles wide. I tried to bridge it, my voice barely a whisper. "You're quiet this morning." He took a long swallow of coffee before answering, his eyes avoiding mine. "Just tired, I reckon." Tired. The word hung there, a flimsy excuse for the wall he was building. And I just sat there, feeling the sting of it, the hurt blooming in my chest like a bruise. It's a lonely feeling, being next to someone who feels a world away. Just when I thought the silence might swallow me whole, the sound of tires on gravel cut through the morning stillness. A pickup truck, familiar and unwelcome, pulled up to the house. It was Mary. She stepped out with a load of supplies, her smile a little too bright for the grey morning. "Thought you could use these," she said, her voice carrying an easy confidence. "Fence wire, some bread." I forced a smile back, my own feeling thin and brittle. "Thanks." But her eyes weren't really on me. They slid right past, landing on James. "James, can you give me a hand unloading?" He hesitated for just a second. A flicker of something in his eyes. A glance toward me, almost an apology. Before he nodded and went to help, I stood on the porch, watching them. My coffee cup clutched in my hand. He moved with an easy rhythm beside her. A rhythm that felt old, practiced. A rhythm that didn't include me. I squeezed the cup until my knuckles turned white, the warmth doing nothing to chase away the chill that had settled deep inside me. Later, the storm inside me found its voice, and it came from the most innocent of places. Sam, my sweet 8-year-old boy, came running in, his cheeks flushed from playing. He blurted it out without a second thought, the way kids do. "Miss Mary said she used to love Papa before Mama went to heaven." The words hit me like a physical blow. The air left my lungs. The whole world seemed to tilt on its axis. I knelt down, trying to keep my voice steady. She said that." Sam just nodded, oblivious to the chaos he'd just unleashed, and ran off to chase a grasshopper. I was left there, frozen, the echo of his words bouncing around the quiet house. She used to love Papa. My hands started to tremble, and I pressed them against my legs, trying to stop the shaking. It wasn't just a ghost I was fighting anymore. The ghost had a name, and she was here. That evening, the air was thick again, heavy with the promise of more rain. I found him in the barn, the place where he went to escape, to work things out with his hands. But there was no escaping this. "Why didn't you tell me about Mary?" The question came out stronger than I felt. He didn't turn around, just kept oiling a piece of leather. "What about her?" His casual tone was like gasoline on a spark. "That she loved you once." that maybe she still does. He finally stopped, letting out a long, weary sigh. That was a long time ago, Anna. A long time ago. But it didn't feel like it. And yet she's still here. I shot back, my voice rising. Still looking at you like I'm borrowing something that's hers. Like my time here is temporary. He finally turned to face me, his expression clouded. Anna, don't do this. But it was too late. I'm already doing it, I said, the words tasting like ash. We're already here. His eyes pleaded with me. You really think I'd break my word to you? To us? The hurt in his voice was real. I knew it was, but my own pain was a roaring fire, and it was hard to feel anything else. I think you'd remember what you lost before me, I said, the words tumbling out, tears starting to blur my vision. His face softened, the anger replaced by a deep, aching sadness. I lost a wife, Anna, not my heart. That I gave to you. The words should have been a comfort, a balm on the wound, but it was too raw. Then why does it feel like I'm fighting a ghost every day? I whispered, the tears finally falling. Why does her memory feel more present than I do sometimes? He had no answer. He just stood there, the silence stretching between us, heavier than ever. Just then, a gust of wind slammed the barn door shut, trapping us in the suffocating quiet. My voice was barely a whisper when I spoke again, the fight draining out of me, leaving only a hollow ache. Maybe you need time. Time to see what you really want. I saw the shock on his face, the fear that flickered in his eyes. He took a step toward me, his voice raw, shaken. What I want is already standing in front of me. It was the answer I'd been praying for, the words I needed to hear. But words weren't enough anymore. Not now. Then prove it, I said, my voice gaining a sliver of strength. Not with words, James. With trust. Prove you trust me enough to let go of the past. And with that, I turned my back on him. I walked out of the barn, out of the suffocating darkness, and into the cool, cleansing rain that had finally started to fall, leaving him alone with my challenge hanging in the air. Later that night, the house was quiet again. But this time, it was a different kind of quiet, a thoughtful, waiting kind of quiet. I sat by the window, my journal open on my lap, but the pages were blank. My thoughts were too tangled for words. Love without trust is just waiting for goodbye. The thought kept circling in my mind. It's like building a house on sand. No matter how beautiful it is, you're always waiting for the tide to come in and wash it all away. I trusted his love. I did, but I needed to feel his trust in us. I needed to know that our foundation was solid rock, not shifting sand. But maybe he'll fight for me, like he said he would. Maybe this time, the storm will finally wash away the ghosts. I closed the journal. In the distance, a flash of lightning lit up the sky, not a sign of an approaching storm, but a quiet, powerful reminder that some things can illuminate the darkness. And then, I saw him. Through the window, bathed in the pale light of the moon, James was saddling his horse. He moved with a quiet determination I hadn't seen in him all day. He swung himself into the saddle and, without a backward glance, rode out into the night, toward town. Was he riding toward Mary, to finally close that chapter? Or was he riding away from me, to find the answers he couldn't find in the barn? I didn't know. All I could do was watch him disappear into the darkness, a lone figure against the vast, star-dusted landscape. Sometimes doubt whispers louder than love, until someone's brave enough to silence it. And as I watched him ride, a tiny spark of hope flickered to life inside me. Maybe this was him, finally silencing the whispers for good.